Welcome to Missing the Mark, the podcast for gun dog handlers and hunters who want steady, reliable dogs both in the field and at home. I'm Lance Louth, and each episode I break down real training problems and lessons from the field to help you build a dog you can trust when it counts. Let's talk dogs. All right, everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Missing the Mark. I'm really excited about this podcast. This is something that I've wanted to do for quite some time now and just kind of drug my feet on it. But we are finally making it happen. Basically, this episode today is just going to walk you through what you can expect from any of the episodes going forward. So it's basically just our little trailer. Starting off, everyone wants to know, obviously, who's behind the voice. So my name is Lance Louth. I run and own Honeybrook Kennels out of Northeast Ohio. I've been training dogs for a little over 5 years now, and my specialty is working with retrievers. In terms of my background, the thing that got me started in gun dog training was wanting to have my own dog. And at the time, we just had a family dog as a boxer, still have her. And I was really interested in getting a gun dog. And it was kind of funny because I hadn't even started waterfowl hunting yet. At that point, I was still just chasing squirrels and rabbits. But I knew it was something I wanted to get into. I knew I wanted to get a dog, or at least in my head, I had the idea that you had to have a dog, and I was already a dog person. So I decided, let's start training the dog that I have so that way I can hopefully make all the mistakes on her and not on my first actual gun dog once I was able to get one. And then from there, it snowballed, right? So I trained that dog, ended up getting my first gun dog, trained her up very shortly after. I got a second one added. And then at some point, I started helping out other people, and then it started slowly morphing into what it is today. Now let's talk about who this podcast is for. This podcast was specifically made for guys who take their dogs hunting and want a reliable retriever in the field. There are a ton of other podcasts out there that really do a great job of focusing on higher level dogs. And what I mean by that are dogs that are doing hunt tests and field trials. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of those things. For me personally, hunt tests and field trials are just not something that I'm that interested in. Like, I'm interested in watching and picking up tidbits from those kind of trainers. And of course, all the respect in the world because they're doing some incredible things with their dogs. But for me, I've always just wanted dependable dogs that I can count on to go make retrieves and bring birds back to hand. And that's something that I'm very passionate about and that I wanted to help others to be able to bring into their own lives. I can remember the first hunt that I ever went on with one of my dogs, sitting on a bank, shooting some wood ducks, and dog goes out, picks up the bird, brings it right back, sits down at heel, and all I can think is, wow, this is the life. So I wanted to really pass that on and help others be able to experience the same things that I was blessed with. Because having a good hunting dog really does make the experience that much more meaningful, in my opinion. So, big question, what is it that you can expect going forward from this podcast? Well, we're going to do just, general dog talk stuff. And I'm going to dive into different training topics. I'm going to I'm going to talk about how I train heel, how I train steadiness, marking, etc. And I want to be upfront with this. The things that I am saying, do not take it as being the gospel. There is no right or wrong way to train a retriever. Everyone has their own experiences that they build upon. They've had things that have worked for them, drills that have not worked for them. And from there, you're just basically building up your portfolio and having all these different tools in the toolbox. So though I might do, let's just say my marking, or even let's just say blind introductions different than Joe Schmo at XYZ Kennel, there's no reason to think that my way is better than his way, right? It's just all preference and how people like to do it and what's been good for them. So don't take anything here as being gospel. Keep it as reference in case maybe you get stuck on something or a different way that you learned from some other really good trainer doesn't seem to be working. You can have this in the toolbox and pull it out if you need it and see if that doesn't help you and your dog. So we'll be doing that. We'll also be going through some hunting highlights. So basically my thought was whenever I go out on hunts, coming back and doing like a hunt report, hunt recap, and talking about what happened from a dog handler perspective, right? Obviously, it's fun to hear about the birds and the number of birds that are killed and all that sort of stuff. And we'll probably talk about that a little bit, but the main focus is going to be on the dog and, what went well, what did we struggle with, and then what is my approach now to get the dog to hopefully not have the same issues the next time we're out in the field. And that's going to be one of the segments that we're going to do throughout the hunting season. Once we get into the spring and the summer, it's going to switch over to more training stuff. So, I'll talk about, hey, I'm training X dog today, and we were working on casting through water, and here's the issue that I had. This is the number of times that it popped up. I decided to try X to fix it, and it seemed to work for me. So now I'm going to replicate that and, just talking you through the entire process so that you can kind of get an idea of how to problem solve. And also, I think a big motivator for me for this was, we see all these great dogs on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever it is, just crushing it, right? All the time. But you don't ever really get to see the struggles that those dogs are having, because no dog is perfect. They're always going to make mistakes. We're always going to make mistakes as handlers. And I think highlighting those, I hate to call them failures, but those lapses in skill, I think can be really beneficial for people. One, just to give them a realistic expectation that your dog is not always going to be this stud who's crushing it day in and day out. And then two, to help you, like I said, problem solve and try to figure out how you can change and improve your dog moving forward. And then, some basic like tools of the trade type stuff and walking through products and things that I like to use and that have worked for me, and maybe even talk about things that haven't worked for me and why. Eventually, I'd like this podcast to grow. I'd love to get on some different guests, talk to other trainers and learn their perspectives, because I just think that there are so many people out there who are doing this and that are doing it in their own way, that everyone's going to have just a little tidbit that you didn't know about that could push your training to the next level. And if we can get that stuff out there, I think that's going to be really helpful for listeners. Also, personally, 100% selfish here, I love learning and I'm really interested in people's lives and the way that they do the things that they do. So selfishly, I would love to get some guests on and just hear different perspectives. Finally, I'd really like to set up Q&A type episodes where you guys submit questions to me and I answer those questions. And they could be, anything from, hey, my dog's struggling with X, what would you do? Or I'm looking at purchasing Y, what are your thoughts? Whatever it is, just some interesting stuff, just to kind of mix it up a little bit so it's not always just training. But yeah, that's my vision for the podcast. For now, there's not going to be a release schedule. Things are just going to come out when they're going to come out. Eventually, if I get more time, I'm hopefully going to be able to schedule this a little bit more and maybe do weekly drops or bi-weekly drops, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about this, and I hope you guys can gain some knowledge from this and that this is going to be beneficial for you, the listeners. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this episode. And if this is something that sounds like could be really interesting to you, please hit the follow, subscribe, pass this on to any friends that you think that would also be interested, and just help spread the word, because the more we can get the podcast out there, the better the episodes are going to be, the better the knowledge is going to be, and then overall experience from your guys' end is going to be that much better. So I really, really appreciate it, and stay tuned for the next one. Thanks. Thanks for listening to Missing the Mark. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave a rating. It helps more people find the show and benefit from it. Remember, progress takes time. Keep showing up, keep putting in the reps. Trust your dog and trust the process.